Many people lined up in an unexplored northern region of South Korea. Among them was a man who was on his first expedition. He has been to gates and dungeons, but this was his first time in an unexplored region. A man tells him to mentally prepare himself because these types of places have been left unexplored for hundreds of years, so they're bound to be filled with monsters. But then the newbie points out how their expedition team leader is from the famous esteemed Marshall Lee clan. But the man points out that he is an illegitimate son, though, and is so weak that he was banished from the clan. They were talking about the esteemed Lee clan's 9th illegitimate child, Lee Cheol. Apparently, not only is he not talented, but he must not have any tenacity either, because he is only a 7th-ranked martial artist at that age, and so they were skeptical of depending on someone like that. Apparently, Lee Jewel was supposed to be protected by the Shadow Sword Squad. They are the direct affiliate squad of the patriarch of the esteemed Lee clan. Though they are supposed to shield him, he finds something off about them. He does not have a good feeling about this mission and was skeptical about a lot of things. There was once a time when Lee Cheol had hopes and dreams, too. It was the time when he first realized the weight of being a part of the esteemed Marshall Lee clan. And when he was chosen by the best ranged weapon at the steel selection ritual, he thought to himself that if he continues to gain acknowledgement and keep trying his best, he might one day be recognized by all people. However, such a thing did not happen. Rather, his X-rays showed irregular mana paths that had never been seen before. And so they were not suited for learning magic, and martial arts will lack stability if one stops practicing any. And therefore, the doctor announced that for him, reaching the 9th rank would be nothing short of a miracle. Once everyone learned about Lee Cheol's condition, they dismissed what happened at the steel selection ritual as a mere coincidence or mistake. Regardless, he gave it his all. He proved the doctor wrong and reached 7th rank at 25. He was genuinely happy, even if his siblings had reached that rank as minors. But that joy did not last long, since Lee Cheol was cast out of his clan at the age of 30. If it were not for his oldest brother, he might have left the household as a corpse instead. Literal had been on the run ever since, and it has already been 10 years. A time of chaos descended upon them. The unexplored regions expanded, and monster invasions grew more frequent. Amid such chaos, Lee Cheol soon found out through a newspaper that his father had passed away. He was the pinnacle of martial arts and the patriarch of the esteemed Lee clan. Eventually, he was scouted by the Shadow Sword Squad. They showed him a decree, ignoring his questions, but Lee Cheol was not surprised. It seems this cursed bloodline will never let him go. He sees the patriarch's name as Lee Gun Seong, and he was surprised to see that the 3rd brother became the patriarch, making him wonder what happened to the oldest. He asks the squad members what happened to the oldest, but yet again, they did not answer him. He questions what is the point in ordering him to investigate the unexplored region when he has not even wielded the sword in 10 years. He also points out how he is 7th-ranked martial artist at that too. One of the members widens his eyes in fury and asks if he will refuse to carry out his orders. Lee Cheol knows that doing so without good reason means death, and so he accepts the orders. After they leave Leeching, all begins to quiver in fury. That brings us back to the present. The party finds an abandoned building. The squad members suggest that they will go in. As they made their way in, they were shocked to see an ancient, monstrous corpse. As soon as the leader of the squad identifies the bones, he signals his subordinates to begin. This confused the party members, but before they could question it, they were slain like animals. The squad member suggests that they should consider themselves honored to be used for the clan's goodwill. Lee stabs one of the members, asking who is behind all of this. Before dying, he reveals that it is the liege and that they were ordered to bring them all here and to kill them as cleanly as possible. To Lee Cheol's shock, his wound was closing as if nothing had happened. Lee Cheol was severely injured, but he was adamant about surviving. He looks around to find a weapon. He finds a sword and thinks it is powerful enough to slay a great monster, so it should be fine even if it has been here for a while. He picks it up, but it turns out that it had been decomposed. The squad member says he did not imagine someone of the Lee land could be so damn pathetic. And so, as he was stabbed to death, Lee could only think of how cruel the heavens are. He has spent his entire life struggling, running, and experiencing a series of failures, and so, in his last moments, he could only think of another chance at life. Later, when he regains consciousness, he finds himself back at the Lee clan house. Surprisingly, he notices how his father and the butler seem quite young. He raises his hands only to find they were babies. He becomes appalled, realizing that it is him. He begins to panic because obviously he is supposed to be dead. He wonders if this is the afterlife or a flashback. His father approaches him, saying that Young should be a good childhood name for him like the other children. He orders the butler to assign him a handmaid and some Shadow Sword Squad members as guards. He was also to attend the steel selection ritual with the child. With that, his father took his leave, and Lee Chial sighed in relief. He shakes his hand, thinking that this is too real to just be a flashback. Plus, that conversation from before really did happen. He smiles, because if this is all true, then he has really regressed to the past. A few months after returning to the past, the esteemed Marshal Lee clan's special day arrived, the steel selection ritual. The children of the clan display talent corresponding to the weapons that choose them. Lee Chial's father, who was chosen by dozens of blades, became the best swordsman of his generation. His eldest brother, who was selected by swords, tomes, and a staff, was renowned for his magic and swordsmanship. The participant this time around was Lee Chial. He lovingly looks at his handmaid. He remembers how she was like a mother to him, but she was expelled due to his other brother's hatred. She was the one person who cried for his loneliness and stayed by his side. However, this time he will not let this happen. He will protect her at any cost. The other members of the League Land family stayed at the illegitimate child. He was too young to participate, and they do not remember any of them participating in the ritual at that age. The third son, Gunseong, rolls his eyes. With that, the steel selection ritual began. The eighth child of the Lee clan, HWA, was seated on a chair. Her finger was spurred, causing her to cry, but it instantly released magic. It connected with the ivory sword, which is the relic ring sword of the utmost prestige. It is a true masterpiece that has not responded to anyone for generations. And so from there on onwards, Lee HWA was the owner of the ivory sword. The matriarch narrows her eyes as Lee Chial's ritual's commencement is announced. Everyone also begins to whisper, as he was rumored to be the illegitimate child from outside. They couldn't believe such an individual is allowed to participate in the ritual. His father pats his head, saying that he is proud after the sword breaks his finger and he does not cry. Lee Chial knows that the moment has arrived. In the past, he was selected by the Clear Echo, a heaven-rank sword. He wonders what would happen in this life. People could tell that the matriarch was in a rather bad mood, but it was natural. However, it does not defeat the fact that a pitiful fate lies ahead of that child. It will be hard to survive here as an illegitimate son. One of the elders is approached by the head elder, who points out how he seems pretty and trusted in the illegitimate child. He mocks him, saying that it is only natural as he has experienced it himself. The life of an illegitimate child here. He points out how the story of him, another illegitimate child, failed to be selected by even a single weapon as just that famous. He asserts that in the end, an illegitimate child is an illegitimate child who must know his place. The minister is about to answer him back by both of them, become extremely stunned at the sight before them. The place was filled with light. Aside from the weapon that chose the boy, even weapons that already have owners were responding to him. The other brothers had mixed opinions. While some were truly happy for their younger brother, others were skeptical, wondering what was going on. However, Lee Chial's father silences everyone. He asserts that according to the law of their clan, all weapons that chose the boy should rightfully belong to him. However, the situation is not so simple, so he will take suggestions. The minister smiles and raises his hand. He says that even if it is the law of their clan, bestowing all these weapons unto him goes against the meaning behind the steel selection ritual. He says it is a ritual that must continue on for generations, and so he suggests they allow the boy to choose a single armament himself. And so the head of the clan takes this advice into action. Using his magic, he brings all of the weapons. He then tells his son to pick which weapon he would like. Lee Chial stares at all the weapons in amazement. He does not know why this is different from what happened in his past life, but this is good for him. He will make the most out of this situation. Determined, he crawls towards the weapons. First was Frach, the sword that has slain dragons. The holy spear was forged from the body of a white whale. Then there was Valheim, the staff is made from the world tree, where Fae go to sleep. The celestial sword is the sword said to have been forged at the hour when the sun, the moon, and the stars were all aligned. Great weapons awaited his decision. Li Qiao makes himself calm, as there was no need to worry. To his father's shock, he approaches the sword discovered by their founder in unexplored lands. Being a sword covered in dust and veiled in mysteries, nobody could understand how to use its hidden power. It was the Black Twilight. That is what the boy chooses. His father knows known abilities do not warrant it being classified as a heaven-level weapon, but it has been stored along with the other heaven-level weapons as a symbol of its relation to their founder. Not a single one of his ancestors has managed to be selected by it. He contemplates if this was just a meaningless choice made by a newborn child, or could this be another Well of the Skies? Nonetheless, he announces to the audience that the boy has chosen Black Twilight. With this, the ritual was over. The matriarch glares at the boy, saying that they have got quite the nuisance. If it gets in the way, she will have no choice but to get rid of it. 9 years passed by. Li Qiao was 9 years old by now. As he makes his way to the Zone 1 training area, his maid suggests that the other training areas are empty. In contrast, Zone 1 is not spacious. But he reveals that there is someone waiting for him, but they get interrupted as they hear yelling coming from Zone 7. It was Li Hwa, the 8th child training. She was 5 months older than her. She was being drained by Commander Li Hyun of the Ebony Squad. Li Qiao becomes surprised to hear this in the remarks that he is too scared to be teaching a 9-year-old. The maid pities him and assures him that a teacher who will realize his talent will appear soon. She begins to tear up and apologizes for not being able to look after him properly as a result of her incompetence. But he assures her that he is fine and does not want people like him. Plus, he already has some good teachers. He continues making his way to Zone 1. It is the place that symbolizes the esteemed League Lance distinguished history. It is more of a symbolic space instead of a training area now. But there is a reason why he came here. It is because compared to other training areas, this place stores older weapons. After he regressed 9 years ago, he has had some surprising changes happen to him, and the most surprising of them all is him acquiring the ability to read the memories embedded in weapons. He learned that the older the credible, the more incredible the weapon, or the stronger the attachment of the wielder is to the weapon, the more clearly he can see the memories of the past. Li Qiao has read memories of most of the weapons in the esteemed Martial Hall in the past 2 years. The 4th rank Li Clan General Tihyung approaches, saying that it has been a while since he has seen such a perfected 7-star sword. Tihyung, he is not from the direct line, but his skills were acknowledged, and he is currently the general. In his past life and now, his uncle is one of the few family members who sincerely looked after him. He offers to take him before the naming ceremony, but to his shock, the child refuses. He tries to point out how his other siblings are blatantly disobeying the rules. But Li Qiao only smiles back and says that just because everyone else is breaking them, rules should not be broken. He also affirms that he wants to prove himself with his own strength. The general was shocked and wondered if this child is really 9 years old. From his eyes, it was as if he was looking at his eldest brother. He smiles and lets it go, realizing he cannot change his mind. He says he cannot do anything in this case, which bothers him. He then asks if there is perhaps something else that he needs. Li Qiao takes this chance to say that he wants to ask for a favor. He smiles, saying he wants to see what is underneath the secret warehouse. Tihyung making his way to the warehouse, revealing to the guards he came just for a regular inventory checkup, reveals that in here with him is the youngest of the Li clan, who is here on a field trip. After confirmation, they make their way inside. Li Qiao tries his best to act fascinated. He tells his uncle that the secret warehouses are where all of the family's greatest treasures are stored, and in reality, the item he is looking for is also there. Weapons of legend, ancient relics you are not even sure exist. To those who try to find such absurd things, people say this. All things can be found in the esteemed Li clan's secret warehouse. Tihyung explains that the secret warehouse's basement is a place containing weapons that have been sealed for a variety of reasons. Li Qiao's eyes beaming with excitement as he reveals he heard there are monster-level weapons that eat up their owners. His uncle tries to frighten him, saying that holding a weapon like that will make his body and heart be eaten up. But he tells him not to worry, as they cannot even enter such a dangerous place. It tells him to take his time looking around while he does his business from up above. After the left door closes, he lets go of his childish act. Li Qiao sighs, thinking of how it is not easy to act innocent, kid. The secret warehouse basement, also known as the Graveyard of Weapons, is a place where countless weapons and relics are sealed. The reason he came all this way is certain weapons. Certain weapon, it is called boundless. Normally it has the shape of a dagger, but if you inject mana, its length, shape, weight, and other properties can freely be changed. Li Gunxiang, who found boundless in their house but warehouse before he regressed, obtained the title ever-changing because of boundless overwhelming irregularity and diversity. That title is why his third brother became the patriarch instead of the likeliest patriarch candidate, the oldest brother. He then found Li Qiao, who was in hiding, and purged him. That is all he knows right now. In order to prevent the same thing from happening again, Li Qiao has one thing to do. He will obtain boundless before his third brother this time. An hour passed by. Legion had been checking everything that looks like a dagger, but he could not find boundless. But he was certain it was definitely here somewhere. He decides to check the display stand, but accidentally ends up knocking something out. The weapon was quite rusty, making him wonder how it even got this bad. However, his energy instantly manifests and connects with that rusty weapon, transporting him completely elsewhere. He looks around, thinking this is a memory within that rusty dagger. It was different from the memories of the weapons he had read about until now. It felt so clear, like he actually exists in this place right now, but an overwhelming presence that nature itself would fear surrounds him. It was a primal monster that popped out of a blue hole. That was long, long ago, but ended up swallowing entire civilizations, an apocalypse-rank monster. Li Qiao's legs tremble, making him feel like he would die at any moment. His face turns pale as he stares at the apocalypse-ranked monster. He knew that there is no way he can fight and beat that. He was left with only one choice, and that is to run. But suddenly, an individual comes from behind. It was so sudden, which surprised him, but the man instantly hurries towards the monster with his sword and clashes. A single blade strike that can split his enemy. It was nerve-wracking. Li Qiao couldn't believe that such a monster could be defeated with one strike. The individual takes note of the boy and asks who he is. Li Qiao was instantly taken aback but was unable to say something. The man approaches him and asks why he is here, saying that he will send him away painlessly. However, before he could be killed, Li Qiao returns to the present. He instantly loses hold of the rusty dagger. His hands trembled and he frowned in confusion, wondering what that was just now. It feels like that pressure that was pushing down his entire body still remains as if it were real life. He stares at the dagger, which was now changing its form, and this made him realize and confirmed that this was boundless. With this, he will become the master of 10,000 soldiers. He swings the sword to confirm that he has found boundlessness. A week passed by. Li Qiao continued with his training. He turned boundless, which he found that day in the underground secret warehouse, into a ring so that people would not notice. He also pondered upon the movement that the man used in the memory. It was the split demon. He only showed him the technique and told him its name, probably because he felt that it was too early for him to learn it. Regardless of the force of the technique, that man's movements were so graceful. This made him envy the man a little, as he cannot replicate it at all. However, he is not in a rush. Before his aggression, Li Qiao was an outcast that could not even inherit the family's basic techniques. It may only be one, but this is his first time experiencing such advanced martial arts. And so he was confident that he can do it. He clearly recalled how that man moved. He knows if he is trying to mimic an adult's moves, it won't be efficient at all. He needs to adapt it to his own body, slowly and naturally. And so he closes his eyes and tries to replicate it according to his own style. The key is to wield the sword in a way that feels right for his body, and so he manages to do it, crushing the ground beneath. Now he just needs to solve the mana utilization problem. No matter how many times Li Qiao tries to replicate the manner of utilization the way he remembers it, he always fails. It's as if he is forgetting something really important. He guesses he has no choice but to keep trying. As he continues training, he is suddenly approached by a woman. She smiles easily at him and questions where he learned that skill. Li Qiao takes note of her dark hair and brown eyes, deducing that she must be a direct descendant of the Li clan. Seeing the confused expression on his face, she questions if he does not know him. She then starts to laugh, saying that she does not really go outside often, and asks for his name. She then reveals her name to be Li Jionghe. Li Qiao then realizes that she is his youngest aunt. The general had told him that she is a bit different from others, which his grandfather hated. But what annoyed him was that she cannot consider the possibility that she is stupidly strong. The woman once again asks where he learned that skill. She says that what he just used was ancient martial arts. She says she is curious because she really loves old martial arts. She smiles and hands him a notebook as a gift. Li Qiao flips through the pages. It was a bit harder to read because of the handwriting, but it is a mana technique. And that is not all, there was more about martial arts too. It was of a pretty high level as well, so it was hard for him to understand. He guesses maybe the rumors about his aunt are not really true. He reaches a confused part to which his aunt says these are old mana techniques that use the mana paths as their bases. In the past, only mana paths were used, not mana circles. The modern mana techniques have you store your mana in the heart. She suggests that perhaps the manner techniques of the past were better than they are now. This is why there are so few records, even though she is looking into amplification and transformation techniques. Li Qiao is aware that mana spreads from the mana circle throughout the entire body. Reject the mana, trying to return to the mana circle, and only utilize the paths. This is the utilization technique of the man that he could not understand, but after having a conversation with his aunt, he realizes what would work. He uses the technique he just heard about and crushes the ground. Instantly, his aunt was completely shocked and asked if this was an amplification technique. Li Qiao I was annoyed, but affirms. She asks how he did that, to which he says he just did. This irritates her a bit, and so she asks how he did that, but he says why does he has to tell her that? His aunt argues that he figured it out with a note to the book she gave him. She says she has been looking for a way to use it for more than 10 years, even when she was kicked out. Li Qiao eventually takes pity on her and asks her to promise him 3 things. First is that she will not talk to others about him unless he has given her permission, even if it is his eldest brother and father. He says he does not like the idea of people talking about him. The expression on his arm's face turns sad, saying he agrees, saying she is the same way. The second promise is not to lie to him anymore, saying that they need to be able to trust each other. His aunt was irritated, but she agreed. He then makes his last request. A year passed by in the blink of an eye. Li Qiao, who was 10 years old now, he continued to train along with his aunt by his side. One day he gets a letter. Was it a summons order revealing that the naming ceremony will take place soon? The proxy patriarch was Li Myung-yung. This makes Qiao wonder if father is not home right now, but it confuses him because he did not hear about an expedition or anything. But unbeknownst to him, his aunt begins to fume with rage at the idea of the naming ceremony. He asks what is wrong, to which she says she finally got the hang of it. She says she needs his guidance more than ever right now. She says he will have to stay for a while if he goes to the naming ceremony, and so she tells him not to go. It has been a year since the deal, and all this time they have been researching mana techniques. Modern mana techniques that use the mana circle as the core, ancient mana techniques that use the mana paths as the core, and a new type of mana technique that combines the two. His aunt said that successfully combining the two was her dream. Accumulating mana, transforming its trait in the circle, and using the paths to control the mana and utilize it. Thanks to this method, Li Qiao is able to utilize mana much more efficiently than other kids his age. Unfortunately, he had to go to the naming ceremony, but he assures her that he won't be long as he intends on continuing with their work. The scene shifts to Li Qiao and Li Hwa training side by side. The session focused on endurance, with both children being instructed to withstand continuous magic attacks for a full 30 minutes. Overseeing the exercise was instructor Jang Wook. the group leader of the Blood Tiger Squad, whose role was to observe, evaluate, and correct their performance throughout the trial. From the beginning, the instructor had expected the ninth son of the clan to fail almost immediately. Li Qiao had never received even the most basic formal training, and his background alone led many to assume his limits would reveal themselves quickly. Contrary to those expectations, he relied purely on instinct and discipline, managing to deflect each attack with controlled movement and precise timing. The sight was unexpected and deeply unsettling to the instructor, who found his assumptions being overturned one after another. It appeared as though the child was deliberately testing himself, using the eighth daughter as a reference point to measure his own abilities. He continuously pushed his limits, silently urging the instructor to increase the difficulty of the lesson. Despite his young age and status as a 10-year-old illegitimate child, his composure and adaptability far exceeded what should have been possible. The label that once defined him now felt insufficient, even disrespectful, when weighed against the talent unfolding before them. Witnessing this, instructor Zhang Wook reflected on his earlier behavior and prejudices. He resolved to set those aside and commit himself fully to teaching Li Qiao properly. What had begun as routine preparation for a naming ceremony had clearly evolved into something far more serious. From that moment onward, the instructor intended to pass on everything he could without reservation. When the training finally concluded, Li Qiao was surprised to receive an apology from the instructor, something he had not anticipated. As he prepared to leave, his path was blocked by the eighth child. She attempted to assert her legitimacy and position within the family, seeking acknowledgement. Li Qiao, however, showed no interest in engaging and tried to ignore her entirely. In response, she recklessly surged mana toward him, forcing the confrontation she had been denied. Her actions made it impossible to continue ignoring her. Li Qiao evaded the attack with ease, then restrained her by the neck, dismissing her behavior as childish and unnecessary. His words implied that he had no time for her grievances, especially when he had more important matters to focus on. Her accusation then shifted, placing blame squarely on him for her current situation. She referenced the steel selection ritual, claiming that his involvement had changed everything. According to her, she was now constantly compared to him, her achievements diminished by his presence. She demanded to know why he could not simply remain unseen and irrelevant. Her frustration poured out unchecked. She spoke of sleepless nights, constant exhaustion, and being deprived of even small comforts while he appeared to possess talent effortlessly from birth. To her, the imbalance felt unbearable and deeply unfair. Li Qiao responded calmly, pointing out how easily responsibility was shifted onto others. He made it clear that she was free to act however she wished, as her choices were her own. This only fueled her anger further, leading her to vow that she would surpass him during the naming ceremony and force him to beg for forgiveness. The scene then transitions to Section 7 of the training hall, an area reserved exclusively for members of the direct lineage. There, the matriarch of the house approached her daughter and immediately noticed her depleted state. She scolded her sharply for losing and continued to pressure her, emphasizing that failure was unacceptable and improvement was mandatory. Li Hwa swore that she would defeat the illegitimate child no matter the cost. In response, the matriarch handed her a lethal poison, making the family's expectations unmistakably clear. If she could not surpass him through strength alone, then she was to trample him instead. This, she reminded her, was simply the way of their family. With that final instruction delivered, the matriarch turned and left her behind. The scene shifts to Li Qiao showing his aunt how he has achieved his first star. Normally, you have to undergo 3 stages of mana arts. The Iron Body stage is where you strengthen your body. The Qigong stage is where you change the nature of your mana, and the Extraordinary Ability stage is where you demonstrate supernatural abilities through mana. But Li Qiao's aunt's mana arts are different. Even if it is the same first stage, you can do different things and show more abilities. That is why hers are divided into the stages of stars. She becomes happy as he demonstrates his abilities, and she hugs him tight, suggesting that they move on to 2 stars now. She asked what he thinks he is best at. Li Qiao is about to say the sword, but she refuses. He says that she has seen him a few times when she was bored. She says she thinks he has an ability more outstanding than his swordsmanship. She says his greatest ability is his mana arts. This shocks the boy. She elaborates that his talent for mana arts is incredible to the point where everything else dims in its comparison. Nobody was actually able to follow the mana arts, she thought in the past. Li Qiao never expected to hear such a thing because in his past life he was ridiculed for not being able to use mana. She says that's why she does not think attaining 2 stars will be difficult for him, and if he succeeds at that, the naming ceremony will be a piece of cake. And so from now onwards she promises to teach him proper techniques. Li Qiao then she questions what the box beside her is. She instantly throws one at the wall behind him, saying that they are metal marbled. You need to be able to move while releasing mana, since using mana arts while staying still is no different from dead mana arts. She then looks at him excitedly, asking if they shall begin. The scene shifts to Li Qiao and Li Hwa as they arrive for their next lesson, this time under a new instructor, Li Zhongquan. Upon meeting them, he formally introduces himself, making it clear that he will be the one responsible for their training from this point onward. He then reveals the gravity of his role, stating that he will be teaching them the secret techniques of the esteemed martial Li clan. Without wasting time, Zhongquan instructs the two to choose the weapons they intend to use and return within 1 minute. As they move to comply, Li Hwa quietly asks Li Qiao whether he plans to use a sword as well. When he denies it, she looks visibly surprised, pointing out that every time he trains in weapon arts, he always seems to wield one. Li Qiao offers no response and simply turns away, leaving her behind as he heads back. When Li Qiao returns, Zhongquan immediately questions him, asking what he thinks he is doing. The instructor reminds him that he specifically ordered them to bring the weapon they use. In response, Li Qiao calmly gestures to what he has brought, explaining that these are, in fact, the weapons he uses. The sight startles the instructor, who had not anticipated such an answer. Zhongquan scoffs, remarking that he had assumed the boy was not foolish, only to now label him a complete idiot. He then orders both children to remember his words carefully. While he will indeed teach them the clan's secret techniques, he makes it clear that he will not be instructing them in specific postures or combat skills. He goes on to explain that within the esteemed martial Li clan exist numerous secret arts collectively referred to as enlightenment. However, mastering these arts requires a foundation far beyond basic technique. To even begin, one must awaken the sixth sense dormant within their blood. He states bluntly that this is what he intends to do for them now, warning them not to struggle too much in the process. Li Hwa grows wary, her suspicion rising as she wonders what exactly the instructor plans to do. Sensing her hesitation, Zhongquan advises them to brace themselves if they wish to avoid being knocked unconscious right from the start. Without further warning, he attacks. Li Qiao barely manages to evade the blow, his body reacting on instinct alone. This was training he had never properly received before his regression. But as he steadies himself, one thought becomes clear: this life will be different. While Li Qiao continued to endure the instructor's relentless blows head-on, Li Hwa seized the opportunity to strike from behind. She gathered her mana and launched her attack, hoping to catch him off guard. However, the attempt failed completely, ending without even slowing the instructor down. A full month had passed since the two children began training under Zhongquan. The regimen was excessively harsh, brutal enough to fracture bones and cause internal injuries if executed carelessly. It was not the kind of training meant for 10-year-old children, and yet Li Qiao showed no intention of complaining. On the contrary, he was beginning to adapt. The movements no longer felt foreign, and the pain, while still present, had become something he could endure and manage. Li Hwa collapsed once again, losing consciousness for the 22nd time since the training began. Li Qiao casually pointed out that he had only passed out 16 times in comparison. The instructor observed this with interest. Despite the intensity of his attacks, the eighth daughter possessed an unusually sturdy body. Even when struck harder than intended, she had not suffered any serious injuries. At the same time, the illegitimate child continued to defy expectations. Initially, the instructor had dismissed him as foolish for carrying an armful of different weapons. But over time, it became clear that Li Qiao was proficient with every one of them. Not only did he understand how to wield each weapon, but he also knew how to properly utilize their strengths in combat. A faint smile crept onto the instructor's face, though he quickly concealed it. After a month of relentless training, the boy was clearly beginning to grasp the fundamentals. Without comment, he signaled for the training to resume. During the second round, Li Qiao quietly informed Li Hwa that he would give her a signal. All she needed to do was block the instructor once. With a simple plan in place, the two moved together, coordinating their actions as they charged forward. As Li Hwa successfully drew the instructor's attention, Li Qiao spotted a brief opening. Seizing the moment, he unleashed the ultimate technique he had obtained through Boundless, the Split Demon. The suddenness of the attack caught the instructor off guard, leaving him momentarily frozen in shock. Yet to Li Qiao's disbelief, the strike was blocked. The instructor countered immediately, hurling the boy aside with ease. He remarked that it had been 37 days since the training began, then congratulated Li Qiao on awakening his sixth sense. Turning to Li Hwa, he bluntly stated that she still had a long way to go. With that, the day's training came to an end. As the two children began bickering among themselves, the instructor remained silent, deep in thought, his mind occupied by what he had just witnessed. A few days passed by, and the day of the second trial of the esteemed Li clan, the naming ceremony, arrived. The red and blue island is where the land's color changes depending on the amount of mana in the atmosphere, serving as the site for this clan's naming ceremony since ancient times. Li Qiao and Li Hwa, they were given instructions to survive on this island for 3 weeks in order to prove themselves. They were given devices so their locations could be tracked, so they were advised to have them on at all times. The trial chamber will be open for 2 days after the final 3 weeks. Before continuing with the ceremony, Li Hwa says that she has something to say. Li Qiao, he had expected this, pointing out how he knows she has been trying to say something to him ever since they were being educated. Li Hwa grabs her device and gestures for him to untie his and put it away. After both of them were done, Li Hwa showed him poison called dreamlike trance. She says it is only effective against children under the age of 15. If it is exposed to the air for more than 5 minutes, it evaporates. Apparently, this poison will cause your mana path to malfunction for a long time once you intake it. Li Qiao's demeanor darkens as he questions who gave this to her. She says she will not tell him and breaks the bottle. She says now they have no evidence. She says she is going to beat him fair and square without using such a poison, so she needs him to take this test seriously with all his might. Li Qiao smiles, saying that he would have done so anyways. Li Hwa rambles on, telling him to make sure to challenge the center of the island after he gets used to the environment, as she heard it is pretty dangerous. Li Qiao grows annoyed by her chattering and asks if she's worried about him or something. This annoys her, and she begins to yell at him. Both exchanged goodbyes and made their way into the island. Li Qiao's intent was not the outskirts of the island, it was the center of the island. Meanwhile, the elders were watching both of them from screens. They were fascinated by the 8th daughter's outstanding powers, as she had already finished the first assignment, which was hunting. The number of animals she defeated was quite astonishing, despite this being her first practical experience. But Zhang knew that she was only provoked by the 9th son to improve much faster. However, the elders were confused as to what the boy was doing. The instructor says it seems he is looking for a place to set as his hideout. The elders think of him as a coward for choosing to hide and run away like a rat. But the eldest son says that trying to find a house hideout in a dangerous environment should be considered strategic. It is not something to scold him for. The oldest was disappointed to see how the elders were reacting, but he also wonders why the boy is heading to the center of the island. He looks sideways to see the general panicking a bit. It doesn't look like he is the only one having this concern. Li Qiao, on the other hand, it finds a place. He burned some medicinal herb and blocked the entrance. The elders couldn't help but admit how his concealing skills are quite impressive. The elders were then shocked to see that he removed his devices and covered the camera. The general bursts into laughter. It seems the boy's unpredictable as always. Li Qiao thinks of how he can use the Boundless as well now. Now that he is on this island, he might as well salvage as much as possible. As he looks at the tea he just made from the mana herbs, he is almost about to puke because of the grotesque look. But he had no choice but to drink this tea. He almost dies from the hellish taste, and this marked the beginning of his lonely 3-week fight. It is now the 18th day of the naming ceremony. Inside Myung-Young's office, reports arrive concerning a large group of vagabonds moving into the northern regions of South Korea. These individuals are known to pass through unexplored territories while committing a wide range of crimes, leaving destruction in their wake. Their sudden appearance immediately raises concern. Myung-Young finds it difficult to believe that such scum would enter their territory without a clear purpose. Vagabonds rarely act without an underlying scheme, especially when venturing so close to land controlled by a powerful clan. The discussion soon turns to the possibility that another force may be operating behind the scenes, using the vagabonds as a distraction or expendable front. Further intelligence suggests that the Nine Dragons stronghold has also begun mobilizing its forces toward the northern borders. This development is particularly troubling. The stronghold shares a border with the unexplored region and has a long history of provocation, frequently testing the Lee clan's patience by stepping into their territory without permission. As Myung-Young listens, he reflects quietly. News of their father's absence must have leaked. With the patriarch away, there would be no better opportunity for their enemies to make a move. The timing is far too convenient to be dismissed as coincidence. He orders his subordinate to coordinate closely with the intelligence branch and uncover the truth behind these movements. Every detail must be verified before the situation escalates any further. Despite maintaining a composed exterior, he cannot shake the uneasy feeling settling in his chest. He can only hope that this sense of foreboding is unfounded. At the same time, far from the office and its guarded discussions, someone is already laying plans to kill an illegitimate child. Meanwhile, Lee Cheol finds himself facing a 7th-rank monster, the dragon Draco. The creature releases a torrent of fire, scorching the air as it rushes toward the boy. Without hesitation, Lee Cheol activates his split demon technique, cutting through the flames and obliterating the monster in a single decisive strike. Even so, he does not underestimate what he has just faced. Dragons are classified as super-level monsters for a reason. Had he encountered Draco when he first arrived on the island, he knows he would have been overwhelmed and knocked unconscious almost instantly. It has been 19 days since Lee Cheol entered Red and Blue Island, and during that time, he has steadily pushed deeper into its dangerous territory. Reaching the dragon's domain marks a significant milestone, but remaining here any longer would serve no purpose. There is another objective that brought him this far, and with the dragon defeated, he is free to pursue it. Soon enough, Lee Cheol locates his true target, an 8th-rank monster, a lizard man. Almost immediately, he senses that something is wrong. Lizard men are creatures that should only appear along the outskirts of the island, yet here they are, roaming deep within its core. More troubling still, they are not advancing aggressively but instead attacking briefly before retreating in disarray. The behavior unsettles him. Lizard men are low-ranking monsters with limited intelligence. They are not known for strategic movement or coordinated retreat. This inconsistency leads him to suspect outside interference. When he deliberately reveals his presence, the lizard men respond by fleeing rather than engaging. That reaction confirms his suspicions. One strange occurrence might be dismissed as coincidence, but witnessing it twice leaves little room for doubt. Lee Cheol cuts down the lizard man that blocks his path and immediately gives chase to the ones attempting to escape. He is determined to uncover what is driving them into territory they do not belong in. Elsewhere, the man responsible for controlling the monsters becomes aware of Lee Cheol's actions. Observing from afar, he remarks on how peculiar those of the esteemed clan's bloodline truly are. He cannot help but wonder how a boy so young has managed to face and defeat so many monsters on his own. Still, he dismisses the concern. No matter how unusual the child may be, he is, in the end, just a child, and children, he believes, are easy to deceive. Confident in his setup, the man assumes that Lee Cheol will fall for such an obvious trap without realizing it until it is too late. The man revealed himself to be trainer Xiaogo. From his movements and behavior, Li Qiao could tell that the man was confident he would not need to resort to a second plan. That confidence made Li Qiao uneasy. The setup had been far too obvious, almost careless, and yet that very obviousness confirmed his suspicion. It truly was a trap. Keeping his distance, Li Qiao observed the man closely. As he continued watching, he was startled to discover that Xiaogo possessed the ability to control monsters. The realization immediately raised a troubling question: how could an outsider gain access to this place so easily? At first, it seemed impossible, but as he thought it through, a possibility surfaced. If a teleportation spell circle had been set up inside the area, then this could only mean one thing: someone from within the Li clan was involved. He considered reporting the situation to the household and waiting for reinforcements. However, the idea was quickly dismissed. By the time help arrived, the opportunity would be lost, and any chance of uncovering who was truly behind this would disappear along with it. Hesitation would only allow the trap to close further. That realization left him with only one viable option. Without delay, Li Qiao activated his stealth arts. His presence faded as he carefully concealed his mana and suppressed every unnecessary movement. Using the technique, he erased himself from notice and began to close the distance. Moving quietly and with deliberate speed, he made his way toward trainer Xiaogo, every step calculated and controlled. By the time he reached striking range, Li Qiao was already prepared to attack, committed to ending this before the trap could fully spring. However, as he is about to attack, the bird in the trainer's hand begins to screech out loud. This alerts the trainer, who was surprised as he had not managed to sense the sudden presence. He instantly dodges the illegitimate child's attacks. He had not expected him to be this good. Li Qiao mocks that perhaps he is the one who is weak, angering him. The trainer tells him to shut up, and he orders the lizard men to attack him. Li Qiao activates his 7 stars toward the third form and the true Azure skill. With that, he manages to defeat all of them in seconds, but all of a sudden his body was unable to move. He was trapped by chains. The trainer laughed, saying that he has fallen for it. He says that a ray is the most advanced type there is, one that blocks off the mana circles of martial artists. He calls him out for being nothing but a powerless kid without manners. He tells him to meet his pathetic little death now. Hearing this, the boy begins to use his mana paths instead. It was just that simple. He activates them to the highest level, which makes him able to break through the chains. The trainer was extremely appalled, wondering how he broke free. Li Qiao says he is not going to tell him that and says he has already notified the household about him, so he should surrender. But the trainer was determined to regain his freedom and promised to eliminate the boy. Li Qiao becomes confused. He is then all of a sudden struck by something heavy, causing him to be thrown back. He looks up to see it is the red and blue islands of Guardian Turtle Head Mountain. It has rank 3 and is basically a nightmare of a monster. He couldn't believe that a third-rate trainer tamed this monster. The trainer says he does not have perfect control over the monster yet, but it should definitely carry out the one order to kill him. And so he suggests the boy give up fighting and accept his fate. Li Qiao calms himself down. He knows if the trainer does not have perfect control over it yet, it means he just needs to catch the trainer instead, in order to be able to do anything against the Turtle Head Mountain. This is the only option. He made it just in case, but he never expected to use it like this. He takes the medicine. It is the medicine that was banned because its side effects were too intense when stacked against the positive effects. It is the mana booster. It is the technique that his aunt said to only use in the most dangerous of situations. It is the heaven-defying technique. He uses it on the monster. Though it manages to stop the monster, he did not even get a scratch in. The Turtle Mountain begins to cry because of the mana waves. The boy was unable to move. However, his dark energy resists that cry, and he takes this chance to lunge at him. He combines his boundless first technique along with it in order to split the demon. Soon, he begins to cough blood. He knew he would not be able to move for a while because of the side effects of the mana booster and the heaven-defying technique. He has 10 seconds to find the trainer. He certainly notices a red fox crossing the trail of the forest. It was linked to the trainer. Just like that, he was able to find the trailer. He makes his sword longer in order to kill the trainer. Li Qiao decides to take care of him first now, or it will really be over if he passes out right now. His aunt had told him to drink something if he ever used the technique. It was a good thing he brought the nectar with him. Now, before any monsters get too close, he decides to take care of the guy. Just like that, everything fades to black. When Li Qiao regains consciousness, he realizes he is no longer in the same place. An unfamiliar space surrounds him, stretching endlessly in all directions. Everything is white: floor, sky, and horizon blending together into a single, boundless void. His thoughts drift to the trainer and to Turtle Head Mountain, but the moment he tries to move, a sharp realization strikes him. His body refuses to respond. It feels as though every part of him is breaking apart, his senses scattered and barely holding together. As he lies there helpless, a presence emerges from the white expanse. An enormous eye slowly opens, its gaze fixed directly on him. A voice follows, calm yet overwhelming, explaining that even on their own, the things he has taken into himself are far too dangerous for a human to consume. And yet, both now exist within a single body. From the void, a purple beehive descends. Li Qiao takes note of it, instinctively understanding its significance even without fully grasping its meaning. The voice clarifies that it is not something meant for him to consume. Instead, it is something that will consume him. The voice continues, declaring that a new era has begun. It offers no comfort, only a warning. If the human child does not grow stronger, he will be devoured, if not by monsters or enemies, then by time itself. The world collapses once more, and Li Qiao jolts awake from his slumber. His vision clears to reveal Li Hwa sitting beside him, watching closely. She asks how he is feeling. As he tries to assess himself, he realizes that his body is in terrible condition, battered and strained beyond its limits. Yet despite this, something is undeniably different. The amount of mana flowing through him has increased significantly. As the lingering echoes of the white void fade from his mind, a single question forms. He wonders whether he truly consumed the purple glow stone of clarity, or if something far more irreversible has taken place. As he reveals the gruesome details to Li Hwa, she looks at him in shock. The purple stone was something that was meant to be taken by the eighth daughter. It is an amazing miracle medicine that reinforces one's body, increases their mana, and helps them gain resistance against poisons and curses. It is something the boy really wanted to get, but he does feel a bit bad to change what was meant to happen. Li Qiao slowly pushed himself up from where he had been sitting, the weight of exhaustion evident in the slight slump of his shoulders. His gaze shifted toward Li Hwa, and with a mixture of surprise and curiosity, he asked her what she was doing there, her sudden appearance catching him off guard. She stood there, calm yet attentive. Before Li Hwa could respond, the eldest brother approached the two of them, his steps deliberate but heavy with concern. The furrow in his brow and the slight clench of his jaw revealed a mind preoccupied with matters of immediate danger and responsibility. Upon reaching them, he looked over at Li Qiao, eyes narrowing slightly in thought, and revealed that he had brought some potions along, small but potent instruments meant to aid in recovery or defense. He then politely but firmly asked Li Hwa to excuse them, signaling that the conversation to follow was private and required undivided attention. The eldest brother's expression darkened, and the weight of his words seemed to hang in the air as he spoke. He revealed that had he met an untimely death during recent events, he would have unleashed devastating retaliation, annihilating not only the trainer responsible, but also every organization connected to the incident. The gravity of his admission left a lingering chill, for it was clear that he did not speak lightly or without careful consideration. He went on to praise Li Qiao's actions, acknowledging that what he had done was a feat that every aspiring martial artist should strive to emulate, a benchmark of courage and skill that transcended ordinary understanding. Yet despite this recognition, he admitted that, from the perspective of a brother, he could not allow himself to view it purely in a positive light. The dangers and risks involved weighed too heavily on familial concern. Li Qiao felt a flush of awkwardness rise within him, a mixture of humility and embarrassment. He muttered that he had not expected the Turtle Head Mountain to appear and offer an apology, the situation unfolding far beyond anything he had anticipated. He admitted that he should have simply waited had he known the circumstances would unfold in this manner. The eldest brother released a long sigh and remarked that it was fortunate Li Qiao understood the delicate line between arrogance and genuine confidence, a lesson many failed to grasp in their lifetimes. Curiosity and urgency then compelled Li Qiao to press his eldest brother for more information regarding the trainer. With a measured tone, the elder revealed that the trainer in question was an individual of remarkable skill, an almost fifth-ranked sorcerer, one who had once ventured into the complex and esoteric practices of Onmyodo. It appeared that he had been expelled from formal practice when he sought to obtain knowledge and techniques that were forbidden, engaging in sorcery that had been sealed and deemed dangerous by the authorities. The eldest brother speculated further, suggesting that the trainer had likely activated advanced sorcery during the period when Turtle Head Mountain had been dormant, perhaps aiming to eliminate Li Qiao while creating the illusion that the attack had been the work of some monstrous entity. Li Qiao fell silent for a moment, his mind racing as he pondered the implications of this revelation. With measured caution, he asked whether they had managed to uncover the true orchestrator behind these events. The Order responded that, at present, it would be exceedingly difficult to ascertain the identity of the mastermind, the trail obscured by deliberate misdirection and layers of deception. In the midst of this contemplation, Li Qiao came to a startling realization. He himself had not been the ultimate target. Instead, the true objective had been his older brother all along, a revelation that shifted his understanding of the stakes involved. The oldest brother questions why Li Qiao had reached such a conclusion, prompting a candid explanation. Li Qiao revealed that the attacker's true aim was to tarnish the older brother's reputation, to demonstrate that he was allegedly incapable of detecting intruders and slow to respond during a crisis, thereby undermining his authority and credibility. This strategy sought to manipulate perception rather than achieve direct harm, exploiting the vulnerability of reputation as a weapon. The older brother listened intently, and after a moment of reflection, he acknowledged the accuracy of this assessment. With quiet reassurance, he told Li Qiao not to worry, confident that the attack on his reputation would not produce meaningful long-term consequences. Li Qiao, considering the situation, proposed a countermeasure. He would testify that the older brother had anticipated the trainer's invasion and had issued explicit orders in response, thereby reinforcing the elder's foresight and decisiveness. The two of them deliberated briefly, reaching a mutual agreement. In return for Li Qiao's cooperation, he would be granted access to the library for a period of 3 days, a privilege that would afford him both knowledge and opportunity to further his skills. With this arrangement formalized, the deal was finally solidified, marking the conclusion of their agreement and sealing the course of action they had mutually decided upon. After this, the older brother decided it was time for him to take his leave, as the constant buzzing of his phone with incoming notifications demanded his attention and reminded him of pressing matters elsewhere. Before departing, he handed over a weapon, a significant gesture that carried both practical importance and symbolic weight. Shortly afterward, Li Hwa returned to the scene and inquired about which test he was planning to undertake. She remarked that 3 full weeks had already passed, and therefore, all of the tests should now be accessible and ready for candidates. A brief argument soon emerged between them as they debated over who would disclose the test they intended to attempt first. Li Hwa spoke proudly and confidently, asserting that she would naturally take on the most difficult challenge available. In contrast, Li Qiao revealed that he intended to attempt the Hall of Fighting, a declaration that left her momentarily confused. She asked whether he meant the Czech test and questioned if he was referring to the one located on the outskirts of the area. Her expression shifted to one of disappointment, as she admitted that she had assumed he would aim higher and perform better than that. Li Qiao understood immediately that she was under the impression that he was choosing the easiest path, but he remained indifferent to her assumptions. Without hesitation, he began making his way toward the outskirts, following the path that led him to the next stage of his trial. Eventually, he discovered the hidden cave that had been concealed in this area, the designated location for the second assignment of the naming ceremony. This was, in fact, the Hall of Fighting. He quickly ignited a fire, preparing the space for what lay ahead, and then cautiously stepped inside. At first glance, the wall before him appeared ordinary, unremarkable in every way, yet he knew instinctively that it was far from ordinary. Wielding his sword with precision, he struck the wall, shattering it and revealing a solid steel door hidden behind it. A smile spread across his face, filled with satisfaction and anticipation, as he realized that he had finally located exactly what he had been searching for all along.